Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Todd Clint's SharePoint podcast, starring lovable old me, Todd Clint. And this episode 365, is recorded live on Monday, November 14th, 2017. And joining me, as always, friend, confidant, sidekick extraordinaire, Shane Young.
Yep, that's me, the other guy in a red shirt. I don't know what happened. We both got the memo. It wasn't blue shirt day. We both got the red shirt memo. We look good.
Yeah, and the reason that I did, so last week I was showing off my speaker shirt from the Thrive Conference in Slovenia. Not only did they give me a speaker shirt, doggone it, they gave me a speaker shirt, but they also gave me this red shirt, and so I wore that today. It's got the company XNet, Compass XNet on there. They gave me a coat also. I should be wearing the coat, very stylish coat. So that's why I'm wearing a fancy red shirt this week. What are you wearing yours for?
I'm just kicking off the holiday season right here in the good old U.S. It's the week of we're going to eat a whole bunch of food on Thursday. Your Christmas stuff is almost sold out in the stores. It's been out for so long. Got Christmas lights to hang. So it's the holiday season. So I'm holly jolly.
Yeah, somebody tweeted today something about it is quintessentially American to have a holiday that celebrates gluttony immediately preceding a month of consumer whorism. And I'm like, yeah, that's I haven't thought of it like that, but yeah, that all kind of fits together. It's all of that. Yep. Christopher in the chat room mentions that we're both wearing red because we're excited about the new Deadpool 2 trailer. I know I am. Shane's not evolved enough to really appreciate Deadpool for the comic genius that it is. But last week, they did release a new Deadpool. It's not really a trailer; it's more of a teaser because there's really only couple scenes from the movie in it. But
there's a dude felt like he wanted to get on camera again and go because he really he finds himself very funny. Let's just be honest.
I find him funny, and so the tie-in now. Last week when I was in Slovenia, was that last week? 2 weeks ago when I was in Slovenia, they had a guy there from Microsoft who works with some visual effects companies, and he showed a bunch of visual effects from the first Deadpool movie. We know clearly that a bunch of that stuff's just totally made up, right? I mean, there's no surprise there. I was amazed at how very much of it is made up. Like he was showing one scene from the beginning, the opening scene with all the Suburbans going down the road and all the stuff that was happening. And he showed one scene, and the only item in that scene that really existed, that was really captured by a camera, was one of the Suburbans. The background, the road, all of the other Suburbans, all of the people, the body parts, everything was visual effects. One vehicle was the only thing that was really there.
I mean, I've got Camtasia Studio. I can do that too. No worries.
And the other one is the scene where right before that where Deadpool's waiting for him and he's sitting on the overpass and he's drawing the picture of the bad guy and the Salt and Pepper song's playing, and he's drawing. I knew he probably wasn't really sitting on an overpass, but they showed that and it's like he's sitting on a bench in like an office. I mean, it's just so climactic and it just. Oh, such good stuff.
Sometimes you don't want to see how the sausage is made.
I was, but anyway. So you can get hold of me. I'm Todd Clint, Todd at ToddClint.com, at Todd Clint on Twitter, ToddClint.com on the internet. What about you, Shane? What if the fine listeners want to email you and tell you what a great job I'm doing? How do they do that?
They would go to shane.young@baldzebras.com or hit me up on Twitter at Shane's Cows, where me and all of my thousands of followers mock Todd mercilessly every single day. It's a good time. You should join us.
It does happen. Brad Sams was getting in on it today. It was...
Yeah, he didn't know what to do, right? He just threw up the jerk sign and quit playing with us. He lost.
He was this close to just giving us an ASCII middle finger and being done with it. It was awesome. All right, on to the production notes. As of 6 hours ago, I was all caught up with production. Had a bit of a backlog. Had 3 of them in the can. I got those out this morning, and I've got a bunch of pieces of this automated. Like every month or so, I automate another piece. And a long time ago, I automated the tweeting of the podcast, the blog post, and the YouTube video going up. I automated that with IFTTT. So I've got a job running that says, hey, there's a new blog post that came out. It's got the word podcast in it. Blah. Same with the YouTube channel. And for whatever reason, I shot all those podcasts out this morning in like a 4-hour period. And IFTTT queued them all. And I shot like all of them out in like a 3-second thing. So it was just so it looked like I'd been really busy, but I hadn't.
When we worked in corporate America, those were important tricks, right? Looking like you were busy.
Yeah, exactly. Scheduling tweets and all that. So yeah, all caught up for now until 25 minutes from now when I'm behind again. But automated another piece of it and got it 99.5% of the way there. Jeff Hicks in the chat room helped me just nudge it across the line with a little bit of PowerShell help. So I got another piece of it automated. So even
Thanks, Jeff.
yeah. And when we're done with this, I'm gonna ask him another question about another piece of it. So we're getting there. We're getting there.
I think he said he's been drinking, so he might be in the right mood to help you. So
I assume Jeff's always been drinking. Like I just assumed,
he woke up this morning and rolled over, got a scotch bottle, went right back at it.
That reminds me, I think we've probably all got friends like this. People I'd known for a decade at that time. We're somewhere with them. I don't remember where it was. And the female part of that couple isn't drinking. And I lean over to Jill. I'm like, she's pregnant. Because that's like the only... the entire time I'd known her, she had a drink in her hand every second. And sure enough, I mean, she was. I nailed it.
That's how it seems like how much they all give it away these days, right? They have a girls' night and they're like, oh, no wine for me. Oh, really? Would you like to tell us something? Oh, no, I'm just not feeling right. Uh-huh.
And it's funny how after you have kids, you notice all that. I remember, many years ago, I was talking to some SharePoint folks. I'm not going to name names because I don't know about all that. But one was like, hey, there's going to be this conference. You should submit to it. It's going to be, next April. And I'm like, all right, yeah. And this was like in September or something like that. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll check my schedule. And this person goes to the other person and says, hey, you wanted to submit too? And he's like, I can't. I'm like, how do you, I'm like, how do you know some random week in April 7? Sure enough, that was that.
Well, the good news is I can tell you that I had more than a glass of wine last night, so I am not pregnant. So nothing to worry about there.
Next topic. Okay, on to the topic. So the big news is that last Tuesday was the second Tuesday of the month, and that means all of the patches for all of the products came out. Many patches. Patch your Windows, patch your everything. If you're running the beloved SharePoint, SharePoint 2016, the November 2017 CU, has a whole bunch of good stuff in it. This was well worth the cost of admission. If you don't already have that one in your test environment, get it in there right now and test it out. I will say, as of the recording of this, it dawned on me. I was busy last week with some customer stuff. I've not updated my patch pages, so I'll do that tonight. But they will be out there. Normally, I read through the stuff in the patches, and there'll be one or two things that get me excited. The November 2017 patch for SharePoint 2016 had all kinds of great stuff in it. And like Shane and I had to each pick like our favorites, but there's a whole bunch of stuff in it. Do you want to kick off? What was your favorite thing that's in the new patch?
Oh, well, my favorite thing, probably not the most useful, but my favorite thing was the fact they took all those health analyzer rules that, flag the farm accounts and databases, all the ones we turn off as soon as we get into the farm. They have now set those all to be off by default. So I thought that was a nice step forward, and that's probably my favorite piece of thing.
Yeah, and so those health analyzer rules, so specifically, they leave the rules in, but they turn them from on to off, are accounts by application pools or service identities are in the local admin group, which is something that for 7 years, since SharePoint 2010, has been a problem because sync has to run as a farm account, farm's a local admin, there you go. Or the sync means farm has to be a local admin, timer job runs as farm account, that one. Another one is databases are running in compatibility range, which isn't a problem. SharePoint can handle that. Or databases exist on servers running SharePoint. There's a couple of reasons where that shows up also. So yeah, those are just off. And I know, again, it's 7 years too late, but they've recently started looking at a bunch of those rules. They renamed some other ones to make them make a little more sense also. But they're finally paying some attention to that. So that's good.
I'm assuming some new hire PM got assigned that, and he's like, I'm going to show him how I can do. And he's like digging in ferociously. And they're like, oh, dude, we're just kidding. You don't have to. And he's just, gotta do it.
And I've been doing a bunch of client work recently and installing SharePoint 2016 at a bunch of places. And, one part of my, I've got like a script, but not like a PowerShell script, but just a series of steps that I go through. And either the last or the penultimate step is I run a chunk of PowerShell that runs every one of those health analyzer rules, just so I can go through and shut off and clear the ones that they can ignore. And
yeah, that was Matt McDermott had that PowerShell originally, right?
That's exactly the piece that I'm doing. Yep.
Oh. So what's your favorite new feature?
So I've got a couple of them, but I will have to say that my favorite feature is a fix to an error that I've been beating my head against the wall on for the last couple of weeks. So one of my customers got everything set up, got it all going, and they emailed me like, "Hey, there's this problem when I try to invite people to a new site. When it tries to email them the congratulations thing, it sends it to the address that's their UPN, not their email address. And this particular customer uses .local for their domain because they built it in that time when Microsoft's like, you should use .local. And so none of the UPNs are routable email addresses. And man, I beat my head against the wall on that one. I spent a bunch of time trying to figure it out, and I talked to you about it. I talked to some other people and could never chase it down. Turns out that was a regression, and they fixed it in this patch. So that might very first one on the list too. So that might be my favorite. But one of them that I thought was kind of cool is if you've got all the hybrid things set up, so you've got your on-prem SharePoint, your Office 365. Now you can have the self-service site creation. You can turn that on, and the site collections that users create can either be in SharePoint Online, Office 365, or on-prem, which I think is nice. It's not exactly where we need it to be. You have to control it with audiences and things like that. But before, you couldn't create them in SharePoint Online. They had to all be on-prem. And that is a good one now. So that's just another little nudge out to SharePoint Online and Office 365. Just a little bit.
Yep. And they did so SMTP impersonation, right? I mean, the thing we've been doing since we learned how to telnet into an SMTP server. But now, like if a user goes in and requests access to a site or those type of security things, anywhere that SharePoint knows who's making the request, it will by default send the email using that user as the from account and then to the administrator group or whatever. That's a pretty nice feature. They also were smart enough. They thought ahead. I can't believe it, but they thought ahead and they said, wait, some customers' SMTP servers don't allow impersonation. So they went ahead and gave us a switch where at the web app level, we can turn that off per web app if we need to. So kudos to them. Sound like a well thought out feature that's probably wasn't hard to implement, but makes SharePoint a little more usable. So yay.
Yeah, and so I like that one. Part of my frustration, so those tweaks to incoming and outgoing email, they showed up in SharePoint 2007. 2003 and 2001 had outgoing email, but 2007 kind of redid all that and redesigned all that. And then despite a bunch of things that should have been fixed, nothing changed after SharePoint 2007. Nothing. Until SharePoint 2016 came out. And by default, they added, encrypted SMTP. They added non-standard ports with SMTP. Now they added impersonation. It's like all these things we've been begging them for the last 10 years. We finally get them. I will say, though, having done a bunch of installations lately, that encrypt SMTP email is on by default. And if you're not paying attention when you go put the outbound SMTP server, if it doesn't have a certificate and you can't get it, then your outgoing email fails and all that. So you got to remember to shut that off. But no, I'm super excited that they're finally paying some attention to that. That's good stuff. So yeah, go ahead and get that one out there. And I apologize for not having the patch pages updated. I will do that today and tomorrow.
Good news is it'll be updated by the time the show comes out, so you don't have to apologize.
Weeks before the show comes out, months maybe. Yeah. So you got the next one. Let's tell us a little bit about that. Yeah. So we got 15 minutes. So.
All right. Yeah. So as you guys know, I've been kind of playing with PowerApps off and on after the last couple months, and I'm really digging them. Right. I'm becoming a believer that I think PowerApps might actually be a thing that makes it this time, and we'll have for more than 6 months before it goes away. Which is unusual with Microsoft's new features, right? Usually I'm pretty anti them. But so the PowerApp stuff, I had a customer who wanted to build something, and they wanted to do like a shopping cart functionality. So long story short, they want to be able to go out to a library of marketing assets and then say, hey, I want these 17 documents, and then put those in a shopping cart and send that off to marketing, where some poor marketing intern's got to assemble the package and then send it back to the salesperson and say, here's your sales presentation with those 17 assets. So it turns out that in PowerApps, I built that probably, goodness, 3 or 4 hours. And that was from knowing nothing about any of how that stuff worked. I got that out the door. I could probably rebuild it now in half an hour.
Awesome.
But it was just really kind of cool. And one of the neat things about PowerApps is it has variables, obviously, but it also has collections. So you can create a collection variable So I could just essentially take my documents and shove them into this collection variable and then email that collection variable. And where I learned about all the collection stuff was good old Laura Rogers. So Todd just put a link in the chat room there. So Laura had done a PowerApps episode where she had talked about these collections and using them in a different way. But when I was talking to her about the project, she said, I think you could build a shopping cart with that. And sure enough. So I ended up doing it slightly different than her, but it was really just, she has a great video that kind of walks you through getting started with collections. So I'd recommend you check that out.
Excellent. Yeah, I think PowerApps might get some traction, unlike some of the other forms and workflow replacement things that are out there. So yeah, and it's good. And it's like you and I have always said, the only way you and I can ever learn anything is if we have a task that we have to accomplish with that. And so this was your thing for that.
Yeah, absolutely right. I was doing a POC for the customer, so I could kind of build them like a statement of work from it, and they kind of like, we're gonna go a different route. And I just kept building on it, right? Kind of like I'm learning new stuff. I'm solving problems that I needed to learn to solve. So I ended up building like this whole solution that they don't want it because they're whatever. But I just got to kind of build it all. And it was really it was interesting. And like you said, it's how we learn. So I learned some new stuff.
So what I'm hearing is you and I need to figure out something to sell on a website so we can use PowerApps to sell.
There you go. Yeah, and sorry. And then speaking of Laura and PowerApps, Laura did just announce that she's having she's going to do a PowerApps class. So I will probably sit in on that for free if we're just being honest. But I'd recommend you guys all check it out if you're into PowerApps at all. And I think also the YouTube channel is my YouTube channel is probably going to get a couple more PowerApps content because it's kind of cool. So.
Yeah, it is cool stuff. I agree. So we look forward to seeing some more cool PowerApps stuff. So I guess another thing to talk about, Microsoft. Again, I follow the Azure AD blog, and they announced last week on the 15th that the new Keep Me Signed In option is showing up now, and that is rolling out for full things. It was in preview before, and just another way that they are finding an amazing way to balance end user experience with security. So whenever you and I talk about security, I've always got this trope that I drag out about how security is a continuum, and on one side is ease of use, and the other side is secure, and you got to find that spot in the middle. Yep. And I think they're doing a great job of making it so that line is getting shorter. I think so that you can be really secure and really convenient at the same time. And this is one of those things where they're allowing you to not have to type your username in quite as often, but a lot of machinery in the background to try to figure out when you've got fake logins.
Yeah, the amount that they've invested, right? And you and I, we're not the poster children for this. We've been yelling at it for years, right? But they get it. They've got a lot of really smart people solving security problems you haven't thought of. There's no chance that your on-prem security is as tight as what they're building out there, because those guys, they're just, I can't use that word. They're really just going as hard as they can to try and make this as awesome as possible, and it's pretty cool. Kudos to those guys.
Yeah, the security stuff is amazing, and an unrelated but somewhat related thing. Ransomware has been a big problem lately, and if you haven't had to do any battle with ransomware, it's this idea that your machine gets infected with something. That process goes through and encrypts all of your files, so all your documents and your pictures and all the things you care about, and then for a ransom, some undetermined number of dollars in bitcoins, they will give you the key to decrypt it. It's been debilitating. It's taken hospitals down. It's taken police departments down. It's this horrible thing. We should all have good backups that aren't live and all that. Nobody does that, but we should all have that. So one of the things that Microsoft is working into Windows 10 is this, into Windows Defender is some kind of folder security. I forget what the name of it is, but you can actually lock down folders and whitelist applications that can change the contents of those folders. So you can say, here's my documents, and WinWord.exe and Excel.exe can change contents here, but random ransomware executable.exe cannot. And just amazing, brilliant stuff like that.
Yeah, I like the idea, right? Almost all my content these days is on OneDrive. It's all synced to my synced, I don't know, something to my PC. But they've said before, hey, you get that ransomware stuff, whatever's out here in Office 3 or on OneDrive, call us up. We'll restore what was there before they encrypted it all for you. Don't pay those idiots. I'm like,
they're versioning on all files now. So all your stuff, and you just shoot them an email. Could you roll me back one version? Yeah, undone. Yeah, so they're Microsoft, and you remember, you and I have been in this industry long enough to remember the time where Microsoft shut down for an entire year all new product development, all new feature requirements, everything, and for 1 year they focused on security because security was that bad. So that was back in the Windows XP days. That's how bad security inside of Microsoft products was, and now I look at some of the cool things they're doing. They've definitely come around.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And, and so speaking of paying your ransomware with Bitcoin, so a few episodes ago, I was going to make fun of Bitcoin at $6,000. I missed that chance. And by the time I looked next week, it was at 7,000. I'm like, oh, I'll make fun of those idiots now. I look today and it's over $8,000. I don't understand, Todd. Explain to me how a Bitcoin that I used to mock people at $200 for is now $8,000.
There's a lot of politics in the Bitcoin world now. I mean, that's probably a rhetorical question, but there's a bunch of chaos in the Bitcoin world that's causing this. Yeah, crazy.
And I guess I thought that the chaos was going to drive the price down, not up. I just when they had the split and the coin, the Bitcoin versus Bit Wallet and all that stuff, I thought that was going to drive prices down, not up.
I think, and I have no leverage in Bitcoin or anything. I'm only a spectator, not a speculator. But I think when the dust settles, that'll probably be the case. But I think the drama is because there was the split from between Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, and now I think Bitcoin is going to split again, something like that. It's crazy out there.
Yeah, I just feel stupid, right? I mean, I $200. I was like, who would pay that much for some bits?
Yeah, one of my buddies here in town that owns a Tesla paid for most of it from money that he got in Bitcoin. So he works at a company that has a lot of computers sitting around, and years ago he threw the Bitcoin mining software on there, and so all these machines were mining Bitcoins at night, and it just sat there, and just price went up, and when it came time to buy his Tesla, he paid for a lot of his Tesla with Bitcoin, and I'm like, there's fewer geek cred things than paying for your Tesla with Bitcoin, and that is
kudos to him. He's clearly smarter than me.
Yeah. We got a couple of minutes left. What do you want to talk about?
So, other keeping on the trend of just crazy out of control stocks or that type of stuff. So Roku, I don't know if you watched it all last week, but they went from 27 to was it 42 back to 44 back to 38. I think is what it was at today. Anyway, we're not going to talk about Roku's stock run and how Shane missed it. We're going to talk about. I finally took the plunge and started cutting the cord, and so far it's going okay.
Yeah, and so Shane and I have been exchanging emails in the background. I cut the cord 7-8 months ago, and so we were kind of talking about that. Even in the 7 or 8 months that I've done it, it's changed a bunch. But yeah, I think it's a viable thing. You've been doing it for a week now, so you're not really an authority, but it's got its pluses and minuses. I know for me, it's saving me $110 a month or something like that, just in straight out cash. And also, it's saving me time. Like, I watch a bunch less TV now, and my kids watch a bunch less TV now, which is not a bad thing across the board.
Yeah, well, my kids watch YouTube, so that's not going to change. But yeah, so I don't have a final number yet, but I'm looking at saving about 180 in straight cash.
Wow.
And it was one of those things I kept looking at, and, it was a paralysis by analysis, right? I just kept, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? So finally I just bought some stuff and tried it. And, I bought a $20 antenna, hooked it up to a Tableau TV to get the over-the-air stuff and DVR it and push it out to my phone. So like I was sitting at dinner with my family watching the Bengals game, like, haha, it's on my phone now. I think in hindsight, I'm going to probably need a better antenna. I don't think that antenna is strong enough. It works well when it's nice outside, but when we had some bad weather, it couldn't get through the rain very well. And then, I took that Roku box and I put Sling TV on there. And I mean, it was literally like a half hour of work to go from, a pile of boxes to all the pieces installed and configured to cut the cord. I was pretty shocked and really wish I'd done it sooner because it's not that hard. I mean, I'll probably change it. Probably didn't get it right, but I got started.
Yeah, and so I've been in it for, like I said, 6, 7 months, 8 months, something like that. I'm using PlayStation View. I'm also using a Tableau TV, and then on top of that, I have a Plex server, and I've got some TV stuff through there and all that. A couple of rough spots that we found with any of this stuff, and you're lucky because you're jumping into the middle of it. I did this in the spring where it wasn't a big deal, but live sports is tough. So for me, college sports for the local college team, and then Chiefs football games. I was really spoiled by the NFL Sunday ticket because I could just get to anything anywhere. So that's been a little tough. And then the other thing is when you have, I had DirecTV, you had what, Time Warner, I think.
I did, yeah.
Yeah. So having everything in one spot, live, recorded, whatever, was super handy. And so now, some stuff's on PlayStation View, some stuff's on Tableau, some stuff's, because I've also got Stars through Amazon Prime. So that got a little clumsy. But after a month or so, like nobody cares. My kids always go to the same place to watch, their stupid cartoons. My wife's figured out where everything's at, and it's all on the Roku or the Amazon Fire. So I've got those, set up at the top. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, and it's and so it's interesting. If you're going to wait much longer, so you and I both have over-the-air antennas and the Tableau, but most of the services are starting to get even over-the-air stuff available through the services. So, like I think if I had went with PlayStation View, I could have gotten 3 of the 4 channels that I'm getting via the antenna just straight there in the PlayStation software, but it was missing 1 channel. So I was like, well,
yeah. So I can get CBS, the local CBS affiliate live, and the rest is on demand. The problem is you can't DVR any of the local stuff. So like I couldn't DVR the local news, I couldn't DVR any local sports that showed, but all of the CBS TV shows, NCIS and all that are on there. And so I think for a while that'll keep me tethered to an antenna. But it's getting there. Yeah.
And then Jerry just popped in the chat room, right? And he's pointing out that YouTube TV, they seem like they're really excited to get in this space. I'm guessing, once again, if you're waiting just a little bit longer, they're probably going to be the go-to partner before too long. But, it turns out, so Sling is owned by AT&T, and then DirecTV Now is obviously another major option. They're owned by DirecTV. But, the smart cable and satellite providers are just jumping right in here instead of waiting, and seeing when they go out of business. Because, so I had Time Warner and I had Cincinnati Bell Fi Optics, which is a local one here. And I was trying to get some support from them. And I was trying to figure out, remember we've talked about before, I had a hard time sharing my content with you here because I said that I thought my router was blocking the ports.
Yeah.
So I open up a chat session. I wait my 30 minutes to get a person on. I'm like, hey, do you guys block any content at the modem or at your router? And he's like, I can't answer that. I can only help you, get your internet connected or not. You have to pay for premium support. I'm like, I'm not asking you to support anything. I'm asking you a question about the service that I pay you $264 a month for. I'm like, you people deserve what you're going to get.
Yeah.
So then I went out to their support site and did some searching and typed in the right combinations of words. And there was a step-by-step article on how to get through the problem that their router causes me because it's doing funky things at the edge. I'm like, no. Yeah. Bad words.
Yeah, and you've mentioned a couple times if you're waiting, blah. The great thing about all this is there's no contracts. So if you do it today and you get PS View and then YouTube TV becomes available in 60 days, you drop PS View for $0. You sign up for YouTube, and it's ultimately flexible. So for us, we had the PS View package, the most expensive one that had everything. It had HBO. The Monday morning after the last episode of Game of Thrones aired, I chopped that in half, and now I'm paying like $40 a month instead of $80. No muss, no fuss. I didn't have to call anybody. I went online. It took me like 30 seconds. It was awesome. So good stuff.
Yeah, no, the flexibility is pretty awesome. All right, we probably should wrap this thing up, but yeah, cord cutting, it's exciting.
I'm gonna have to do a special episode on that one, do an hour-long one or something. All right, so you're in a couple of weeks here. You're speaking at the SoCal PowerShell user group.
It will be glorious. I do not know if that'll be available to the whole internet, but it will be glorious if you are in Southern California.
Yes. And then May 21st through 23rd, you and I will both be at the SharePoint North America Conference, the premier be-all, end-all event for SharePoint aficionados in North America, and really worldwide, but North America. We are for sure doing a SharePoint administration day camp the Thursday after the event. And if you sign up for SharePoint NA, So SharePointNA.com. If you sign up and use the referral code Clint, K-L-I-N-D-T, you'll get $50 off and our undying gratitude. Lots of kisses and hugs and all that. And then you can sign up for that in the Shares Camp as well.
If you'd rather just get a handshake, you can use the code YOUNG, Y-O-U-N-G.
And that actually, they add $75 to the cost. There was some mix up in the background. I don't know how that works, but yeah, it actually costs you more. I don't know. So yeah, we'll be out there, and as we figure out what other sessions will be, but we will be out there. We'll have a podcast get together. We're hitting it hard out there. It's going to be a great event. I can't wait to get out there. So
pretty awesome.
All right, so you get up. You've got stuff to do. Chat room, I'll be around for a few minutes. Everybody in the U.S. have a happy Thanksgiving, or actually, by the time you hear this, I hope you had a happy Thanksgiving of 2017, and we will see you next week.
See you.
Bye.